Hey there and welcome to the next lesson. In this lesson, we're going to be looking at how to eliminate noise in a photo when they're done with a high ISO. How to leave them in good conditions to get the right impression. Let's see first, from all the photos we have here, well, we're going to choose those ones with a higher ISO, and we can see that using the filter panel. And going through the ISO speed ratings, looking for the highest ones. Of all the photos there are here in this folder, there are 32. There is one photo with 6,400, one with 2,000, and another with 1,000. Well, these three photos are going to be good to use as examples as to what we can do in Camera Raw to reduce the noise. I'm going to choose these three photos. We're going to open them in Camera Raw. Let's simplify the photo so it takes up the whole window. And, well, we can start with this one that has an ISO of 6,400 and it's a nocturnal scene. Or this one that is a long exposition nocturnal scene with 1,000 ISO. Or this one that has colors that are a little weird and is done at 2,000. Okay, when we have any photo in Camera Raw, we know that the program can put in some default values that we would have to go over them. As they were done with three different cameras, if in any of these three photos, as is this actually a case, it's changed anything with default settings and focus or noise reduction, if we see anything, we're going to lower it to the minimum. Take it all the way to the left. Make sure that here in this third panel there's nothing, and make sure that nothing's done in the basic development. Make sure everything is as it came out of the camera. Okay, so let's tell the program this is going to be the new default settings. So now we have the new default values for this photo. We can start to develop the photo, and then we can adjust the noise reduction. First, we'd have to go and do a basic development, and we could opt, as we've seen before, for doing a development that leaves the photo how we want it, or we could just tell the program to do it for us automatically. If we hit auto on a photo like this, look how the program is trying to give some light to a nocturnal photo. The photo doesn't know that this is a nocturnal scene, so in the end, it's kind of ruined the photo. So it's not really recommendable in these cases to do these adjustments automatically. So let's go back to the default settings, leave the nocturnal scene, and let's try that again with another photo to see if we can, maybe we have a bit more luck. This would be the automatic development for this photo. Well, between the default and the auto, there isn't really much of a change, so it's better for us to develop that one. And in this case, let's hit auto, and there really isn't any change or variation from the default. Well, let's work straight from the default, everything on 0, and develop it however we want. I'm going to start cropping the photo a little bit, giving it a square-like format, centering the boat that was on the left, hitting enter, and now I'm going to try and give it a little bit more light. I'm going to give it some more illuminations, more whites here on the foam of the water. It's a beached boat, close to the shore, and the waves are breaking against it. Here nearby, with an exposition of 1 second with ISO 6405.6, we get this light in a scene that's totally in the dark. If we had done it with less ISO, we would have needed more time, and we would probably not have the noise problems that we're going to find now. But anyway, the first thing to do is to develop it. I'm going to raise the shadows a little bit. The white balance is going to go a little bit colder. I'm going to give it a little bit of vibrance and a little bit more intensity. Okay, I don't want to let it look like it's a day scene or like early morning. I want it to stay like a night scene. And well, now we've raised the shadows a little and a little in the exposition, and it's done in 6,400, it will surely have noise in this area, in the sky, in the dark areas, even in the white foam of the sea when we amplify the photo to 100%. It's normal that when we've taken the photo at 6400, even when the camera is a complete format camera and it is a relatively modern camera, but oh well, this is what we get when we take photos, raising the ISO. In the end, we force the sensor's sensibility. We get less light in, and with less light, we get an image of a lesser quality. It's not really a secret. When we have the image developed, we're going to move on to the third panel, the detail panel, and there we have focus on noise reduction. Okay, in noise reduction, what we're going to do now is to eliminate both kinds of noise that we're going to find in the photo with high ISO. Color noise, the most cumbersome, these purple and green pixels that spread across the sky, and in the gray or white areas, where they're more obvious. And the second kind of noise, which is the luminance noise. Pixels that are granulated and white, spread around the entire photo that we're going to see as soon as I take away the color noise. Let's start getting rid of the color noise. Moving the color noise reduction regulator to the right, we're going to move it, and as soon as we start to move it, automatically the detail, color detail and the color smoothness are going to move to 50. We'll discuss these values later on, but it's a normal adjustment when it goes to 50 to leave the photo in good conditions. To see this even better, we're going to augment the photo a little bit more to 200%, and we're going to see how, as we augment the photo or moving the color noise reduction regulator to the right, these pixels that we had here just a moment ago, magenta and green, are going to be disappearing until they disappear entirely from the photo. When we get there, when the color noise has completely disappeared, we should stop. If we didn't stop, the program may understand that part of the original color is part of the problem. And it will start to eliminate it. So it's best to stop when we see that in those neutral areas, like in the sky or in the foam, we've gotten rid of that noise. We have one less problem. We just have to eliminate the luminance noise, and all these little white pixels and these little dots are the luminance noise. The luminance noise can be reduced by moving the luminance regulator to the right. As we move the regulator to the right, the luminance detail and the luminance contrast will stay at different values. Here in luminance detail, we have 50. As soon as we move the regulator, it goes to 50 to keep certain details in the areas in which we want to eliminate the noise. If we didn't do it like this and we left the detail at 0 and raised the luminance noise reduction, we'll be losing details in the most sensitive areas, in the areas with the most fine details, because we're not keeping it. If we keep the details in the luminance areas, we can see perfectly the ropes of the boat, for example. Keeping the details makes it so we don't lose the definition in the sensitive areas of the photo. Keeping the luminance noise to a low, if we keep raising it and we take it like to 100, we can lose a lot of luminance details. There's none left though. No noise left though. No more noise, but we've lost a lot of definition in the photo, as you can see here, and the photo would be like an image of wax. So I never recommend taking this value this high. Always leave a little bit of the original texture in the photo so that it doesn't lose the details. We can raise the luminance detail a little more. It's not bad. We can't expect a photo of 6400 to have the same definition and clearness of a 100 ISO, but if we compare it with how it was before and how it is now, the truth is that we can be able to print a photo that was done with 6400 on a camera that creates a lot of noise once we've cleaned it up. And this 100% is even less visible. So we have a photo with some quality. We can check that in the before and after that we haven't lost any details in sensible areas. And we can see that effectively we have more or less the same amount of detail we had, but with a with a lot less noise. And this, from now on, makes it possible for us to not be afraid of using high-level ISO when the definition in the original is correct or enough. That's going to depend a lot on the size of the sensor of our camera, on the clarity that it has, and the quality of the lens, and the capacity of generating more or less noise from the sensor. There are sensors that don't generate much noise at high ISO and others that are noisier, so from that, this adjustment in noise reduction will be more or less successful. In this case, we've managed to get a usable photo. Let's try this on another photo, like this one, where we have 1000 ISO. It's not super high, but whenever we go to develop a photo and we want to give it more light, we're going to have to raise the exposition. We're going to have to raise the shadows, and that with the low entrance of light, because it was taken with a higher ISO, means that when we amplify the photo and go to shadow areas, well, let's make sure this is all at 0. In this area of shadows, there's a lot of noise. Here, too, in the area of the water, in the sand, there's noise here. In the white area here, there's noise, and in the sky, there's noise. Even though there's no use of a high ISO, and we had a camera that doesn't generate too much noise with a high ISO, like we have with this model. Okay, let's put the photo into view. Let's develop it. So what we're going to do now is augment the contrast a little. I'm going to take away the magenta tones. I'm going to take away a bit of the warm tones. Okay, so that rock isn't so saturized. I'm going to give it a little more clarity. I'm going to raise the white values because I want to see the histogram go a little more to the right. The light has to be well spread. And, well, in the end, we have a photo that looks like this one. As I've had to raise the exposition about 2/3, so that's like a lot, as well as raising the shadows, well, that's made the noise a bit more visible than what we had at the beginning. How can we see the noise? Well, the noise is going to be able to be seen in an image from 100% onwards in gray areas, in the shape of green and magenta colors. It's here, and once we have our eye trained, well, we're going to be able to see them in the photo a little easier. Let's see here in the sea, there's a lot of noise, a lot of magenta pixels, a lot of green, a lot of blue, but magenta most of all. So keeping this zoom level and choosing an area that allows us to have a bit of control over the noise, I could choose this one, or I could choose the one in the water. I'm going to go to the detail panel, and I'm going to select the noise reduction. As always, we're going to start with the color noise reduction, as it's the most bothersome noise to the eye. We can tolerate luminance noise to a certain point in a printed picture, but it's weird for us to see it as something, well, we're not going to see it as something nice when it's color noise. So let's start reducing the color noise, and let's go little by little up until we get 15, and we see that practically we've gotten rid of the color noise. Let's see that before and after. And the color noise has disappeared. The color has disappeared, but not the luminance. We're at 200%, and we can see here that there's a lot of white grains that we wouldn't want because, you know, they ruin the image a little bit. You know, they ruin the softness. I'm going to raise the luminance noise reduction, keeping the details as always at 50, because even giving it, well, maybe even giving it some more in some occasions, and I'm going to raise little by little until I can see that I get a natural texture for 200%, a natural texture in the photo with no grains from the original. All right, this is the original, and this is the after photo after we've cleaned it. If we put the image at 100% and we move, we'll see that it's quite clean. In the case of the sky, or like the rock, that, by the way, is a little bit unfocused. Let's fit into view. Well, this image would be able to, you know, be amplified to a normal size perfectly without any cumbersome noise in the view. And there we have our photo that's been developed. As we've done this development and we don't want to lose both the basic development we've done and the noise reduction adjustments in like an error or because the program has to be reinstalled and it forgets all of our adjustments we've done in the photo as we've moved on, advancing through the course, and see the development possibilities that a raw file has, well, every time we'll give it more time and we'll be touching on more elements that will make the photo better. As that is time and it's work, and we don't want to waste that time we've used on making a photo better, I recommend that whenever you develop an image, even if it's just basic development, to create a snapshot of the photo. A snapshot is an adjustment that previews what we've chosen. It's not a save file, apart from the file we already have. It's a question of saving different previews of a same raw file. We can do this in the last panel. Go from basic or the detail panels, the one we've just seen, to the last one called snapshots. This panel is empty because the snapshots haven't been created yet, and they have to be created from certain developments we have to do. In this photo's case, as I've done the basic developments and I've reduced the noise, I want to create an updated version of this photo. So I'm going to go to the snapshot panel. I'm going to click on this icon here next to the bin, and we'll get this window where we get asked, what we want to call it. The default name is untitled, but I prefer to give it a name that describes what we've done, so I'm going to call it Basic Development and Noise Reduction. All in Spanish, as you can see. I'm sorry about that. Okay, so now we have a snapshot with that name. If I wanted to go back to the original, I would just have to click on these lines here next to the snapshot and click on Camera Raw Defaults. In the defaults, I get the original back, and now I could save a snapshot called Original, and that's just a quick way to compare the original with the developed picture. Okay, so this will be the original, and this will be the developed one. We could change the view from one to the other on different levels of amplification. Okay, we can already see that we have more light, but we have less noise. Let's go to the original. This is the original. We had less light and more noise. Now we have more light and less noise, thanks to the basic development and to the noise reduction we did. This is for any photograph that we develop from now onwards. I recommend that you go to the snapshot panel, and each time you modify the photo, you create a snapshot to go comparing and altering different views and developments from different sessions. Then, if we want to in the future, we could save an image in a different file on one of these different snapshots that we've developed. Okay, let's fit the image into view again. And let's continue with the third photo that had an ISO of 2000, a high ISO as well, with a full frame camera. And let's see what development we can do on this photo. So to start with, well, we can see that we have a very warm tone in this area, and in this area here, we have a tone that's a little less warm. We can correct this with tools that we're going to see later on in other lessons, like the area adjustment tool. And now we're going to do a general development. So let's take away some color temperature. This photo can be good to try out with the white balance tool and click on one of the areas that should be neutral. For example, this shadow or on the white. If I want the white to look yellow or orange, well, I can click here and it's going to balance out the white to make it more neutral. If I click on the shadow, I'm going to balance the shadow, and that way the rest of the photo will balance out with the gray where I click. This way, the photo will become too cold. So we can modify and click on the areas to give us a starting point to adjust a little more or less the image to how we want it. what I'm going to do now is give a little more strength to the blacks and a little more light to the shadow. I'm going to give a little bit more clarity and, most of all, vibrance to the color. This photo doesn't need much adjustment because it already has, well, the light isn't too bad. The only thing we had to correct was the color temperature. Alright, so at 16%, we can't really see any noise. Let's go to the basic panel and we'll see that in detail panel, it's all at 0. And if we amplify the photo to 200%, we're going to see that actually there is some noise. Okay, let's fit into view where we can't see any noise. But if we're going to print this photo on a large scale, imagine that we were printing this photo, you know, for a poster, the noise we're going to see here would be visible later when we print. And that's something that obviously doesn't look too good. So at 100% or 200%, we're going to see that the image has quite a bit of noise. Okay, so that noise can be eliminated, as we know, doing color noise reduction and a little bit of luminance noise reduction to leave it on a level that's quite a lot better. This way, well, we could print this photo without worrying about it if later the noise is in the print and we can see it bad. So, well, even at this level that's not that big, we can see that we've eliminated the noise. If we compare it with before, we can see that a lot of the color noise here and here, and in this area of shadows, that we've been able to leave practically without any noise. Well, with this, we've seen how to reduce high ISO noise in a photo. And now we're going to go on to make a snapshot. That will be called, like the last one, Alright, now that I'm at it, I'm going to crop the image. It's at 2:3. Let's make a square, a cut, landscaped, in which we can practically not see the side of the plate. Here we can see it's just a little bit of the plate and the dessert. Okay, so this would be the next snapshot I'm going to save. That's going to be called Developed and Cropped. In Spanish, obviously. Okay, I'm going to hit OK, and now we compare between the original photo and the photo without any crops. We're going to call it original. We can see the original image, the developed image with noise reduction, and then we can see the developed image with cropping. Now we can see the original developed and cropped, developed and noise reduction. We have 3 versions. This is another one that was here from another day with another adjustment, and we'll see later. If there's a snapshot we want to erase, like for example this one that I want to erase, I hit the bin and the snapshot disappears. So now I would only have these 3. The original, developed and cropped, and the developed and noise reduction. Well, this is what noise reduction can offer us for high ISO in Camera Raw. We'll continue in the next classes with the other part of the detail part, in which we can make our definition better. We have the tone curves and the contrast curves in Camera Raw, and a lot of tools and the rest of the panels. Okay, see you guys in the next lesson. Bye!